Welcome to AI in Action, Exploring Tomorrow's Tech Today, the podcast where we delve into the groundbreaking world of artificial intelligence. I'm Maurie, and with me is my husband, Jim. With our combined expertise in technology and education, we're here to guide you through the AI revolution. Whether it's the latest news headlines or transformative AI applications in classrooms, healthcare, and beyond, we're here to make sense of it all. Together, let's uncover how AI is reshaping our world from everyday encounters to the future of work. So let's dive in and explore tomorrow's tech today. Hello, and welcome to this episode of AI in Action. We are at episode 7. I am Maurie.
And I'm Jim.
Today, we are going to have a conversation about how AI is getting personal. Now, the reason that we decided to have this conversation is because just recently there was a study that came out about loneliness. And the report is about how America is experiencing a loneliness epidemic. And then it talks about the different ways that you can address this. Loneliness has been going on even before the COVID-19 pandemic, but after COVID, it seems to have really exacerbated. One of the things that really caught me was that you can feel lonely even if you have a lot of people around you, because loneliness is not about the people around you, but it's about the quality of the connection that you have to those people. So because of that article, Jim and I have decided that we are going to cover how artificial intelligence is going to get personal and how it might actually help some with the loneliness epidemic that is currently going on in America. So let's start with our first article. This is about a venture capital firm that released instructions for creating an AI girlfriend.
Yeah, but before we go to that article, let's also add in the fact that part of the reason we did this was because we watched a movie, and the movie was called Her,
That
I
is
think,
correct.
and it had Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson.
Was
I
the
think
voice.
was the voice.
It was actually, it's several years old. The movie's been out for a while. And basically it's about a person who loses someone who he cared deeply about, and he eventually makes a connection with an AI.
Yeah, he has a difficult time making connections with people, which kind of resonates with me. I'm not really very good at making connections with people. So I do know that feeling. I used to travel a lot whenever I was giving presentations all over the place. And I do know that feeling of going to a restaurant in some town and, the restaurant's crowded. There's lots of people there, but you're sitting by yourself and it feels weird. You get to the point where you really prefer to take your food and go back to your hotel room rather than sitting by yourself in a room full of crowded people. So,
And this was back when there really wasn't a such thing as the types of cell phones and the types of devices that we have today. So you couldn't just sit there. I know that I've been at several conferences that when I go to a restaurant and sit, it doesn't seem as lonely because I can text, I can talk on my cell phone, I can go look at Facebook, I can do all of those things, and it doesn't make me feel as lonely.
yeah, I back then it was mostly the cell phone I had was mostly about making phone calls. You could text. I think now with being able to surf the web plus the texting, because talking on a phone in a crowded restaurant back then was not really something people did. But even if you did, it was hard to hear and that kind of stuff.
So let's talk about the first article. Again, a venture capital firm released instructions for creating an AI girlfriend.
Yeah, they put the code on. I haven't actually tried it. They put some code on developer side on GitHub, and it's supposed to be instructions on how to build an AI companion bot from scratch. The quote that was kind of interesting is it's like build a bear, but if said bear was a bespoken AI lover, pal, or otherwise, which is a weird quote. But as I said, I didn't get time to try it. The article really wasn't that detailed, but I suspect that the idea is that they're going to try to use these large language models to tap into this loneliness epidemic, as you were just talking about.
So the next article is about how Meta is reportedly preparing to release AI-powered chatbots that have different personas.
I think, of course, Meta is Facebook, and I think a lot of this is about companies wanting to make their products, stickier, where the products are actually more likely to be used because they have human-like conversations. They've been trying to put faces on robots that were human-like for years. I don't know if this is a good idea. I mean, it maybe. I mean, we just did a chatbot at school that we work at that we'll talk about later. But there's a term for trying to put a human traits and characteristics on a non-human,
Inanimate.
an inanimate object. I can't pronounce the word, so I'm not even going to attempt it because I get it wrong every time. But these different personas, these different chatbot personas, I mean, maybe that is the next thing. It just seems kind of sad that you have to feel like you need to connect with an AI. I mean, that movie was kind of sad when you think about it. And just to make it worse, that I won't tell you the complete ending, but I didn't like the ending that much personally. But
As a counselor, having a degree in a master's in counseling, depression and loneliness, it really does cause mental health issues. So I'm kind of from the viewpoint that if I can have a conversation or feel like I'm not alone in my home, if I like live by myself, if I'm elderly, and I can have a large language model type conversation just about the weather or the news or any of that, I think it might be a good thing for mental health. But I also think that it might do some replacing in the job market. We've kind of talked about how it can be the one that's taking your order or the one that's, all the customer service things. And we're going to cover that. There's actually an article that we're going to talk about in just a second that has that in there. Decoder.com came out with an article about a researcher, an AI researcher, that actually thinks that not only are you going to be talking to an AI, the AI is going to actually have or will have emotions. What do you think about an AI actually developing emotions of their own?
well, he's kind of a controversial figure, Jeffrey Hinton. I think he used to work at Google Research, and he has made a lot of controversial statements. He even claims that he thinks AI, depending on how you define feelings, AI have feelings already, frustration, stuff like that. You know,
I know it got mad at you whenever
it
it
felt
said, "We're
like it.
done.
It felt like
We're
it.
not talking
The
anymore."
Bing chatbot got seemed like I kept arguing with it about a particular skill that I thought it should have based on what they claimed, and it finally said, we're done with this conversation, and it just stopped. So maybe it does that constantly, or maybe I just irritated it. I don't know which. It did feel like it was, but again, that could be me just putting my own emotions on it. But it sure felt irritated. You know, at the end of the day, when you talk about relationships, if you probably ought to have feelings. I mean, is there really anyone that can frustrate you or irritate you more than somebody you feel personally connected to? Not that my own personal experience in that, but
Yes, stop looking at me.
if
You're
you
looking
have
at
no
me here.
if you have no skin in the game,
Uh huh.
then if you don't feel connected, you don't feel frustration and anger because you don't care.
Well, be careful because we're really feeling connected right about
Yeah,
now.
I
Hmm.
know we're very close together.
So let's talk about the company Inflection One. So
Um,
it's the next frontier of personal AI.
well, it's what they make pie.
Okay.
I brought this one in because pie is they've gotten something like over $1 billion of investors, and when I looked at it, I've used it. I played with it a little bit, and I find it mildly irritating to use because you can tell maybe it's kind of like one of the psychologists that you lay on the couch and talk to, and you ask them a question, and they, instead of answering the question, they go, "How do you feel about that?" And so it kind of does the same thing when you're talking to it. It feels like it's going, "Oh yeah, I know how you feel about that. So how do you feel about that?" So maybe that's the point. Maybe that's how you can utilize AI to make a connection to, but make
Kind of
more of
get to
a
the bottom.
well, maybe make more
Helps
of
you
a
get to the bottom
connection
of your
like a
thoughts.
maybe make more of a connection like a psychologist versus a friend or whatever. When you don't really connect with them on a personal level, but at the same time you connect with them enough to tell them your problems and talk about issues that maybe you can't talk about to other people because you feel too connected to them.
Well, the article's in a thing called KD Nuggets, and it talks about how they are an AI startup and they're on a mission to create a personal AI for everyone with for their specific needs, for their unique needs. So they've already released, as you said, Pi. It's a large language model. I know that we pulled it up. We're actually doing a training coming up pretty soon that we're going to show Pi as one of the AIs that is out there. And when we were kind of going through the training earlier and you pulled it up, it was very upbeat, very personal. I think you asked something about the weather, and it's like, howdy, the weather in Texas is this. And
Mm-hmm.
it was actually kind of creepy, if you ask
Well,
me. But,
when I started playing with it recently, again, I actually had a specific purpose. As you know, my dad is getting elderly, he's getting up in his years, and he likes to tell stories. And so I was trying to allow him to record some of those stories. But the problem is, without someone sitting there interviewing him for hours and hours, it's hard for him to stay focused on a story thread. So I thought about Pi. Of course, he can't type, which is a little bit of a problem. But I thought maybe if he was conversing with something, just kind of giving him more like not pointers, but something that kind of triggers the next story
mm-hmm,
kind of thing, then maybe kind of like a prompt,
mm-hmm.
that maybe he could get those stories that he really desperately wants to tell into a recorded format. And then, of course, I was going to take those and make a little chat bot out of them. I called him PopBot.
So that
The
his grandkids can ask questions in the
Right,
future.
right. So he can have a conversation. I mean, it seems a little weird, but it was just one of those little projects that I was working on.
I don't think it's weird at all. I think it's actually a really big compliment to your dad. So,
When I was young, I noticed my grandfather, when my grandmother passed away, my grandfather was, he was in his 80s, and, he lived with my parents. He lived with us for a while, but he was very lonely, and he had a difficult time making connections with people. Plus, at his age, he didn't, a lot of his friends had died and things like that. And it was one of those things where he would have just liked to had somebody to talk to. One of my favorite commercials, I really loved the Alexa Silver, that little skit that was on Saturday Night Live.
yes.
I laugh about that thing every time I watch it.
If you haven't seen that, you really need to go find it. It is an SNL skit. Just do Alexa Silver, and it's going to pull up an advertisement. If you know anybody that, actually, I'm going to have to say over the age of 50, because we catch ourselves doing it all the time. I
I
don't
don't
know
know.
about
I don't
that.
know about
I
that.
don't know about that.
Yes.
But go find that, watch it. It is very, very funny. Now, we've covered just about AI being a little more personal, about, a girlfriend, a companion, a chat bot,
A
a
therapist.
therapist. So let's step back for just a second and let's cover some things that are just actually in the news, because AI in action, that's what we do, is we try to cover those headlines. So let's talk about some of the headlines that are in the news that is like this week. So the first one that we noted was from futurism.com, and it's about GPT-5. Now there's some controversy over
Yes.
GPT-5. Say that fast 5 times.
Yeah. It'll be the new and improved Oracle or something to me, because I can't ever say that. Right now they've denied quite often that they were even working on GPT-5. Maybe this is just a natural progression. The thing that felt like it kind of fit into the personal thing was, GPT-4 was trained on such a small amount of the total information available. You have to wonder, because they specifically mention production of human speech, and they already have that ability to some degree with their current systems, natural language processing, generation, analysis, all the things that if you were going to make a personal chatbot, then maybe that would actually make it have enough ability to become more personalized, more able to connect with people. Again, this all sounds weird when you say it, but when you have an epidemic of loneliness, I'm not sure exactly. Maybe we make it worse with these companion bot kind of things, or maybe it helps, like you said earlier, just a small connection with somebody, something that feels like you're having a conversation that something cares about. Maybe that makes a difference. Again, I have that problem with the personal connection, so I certainly know how they feel. Though I'm a little worried about Pi. We talked about Pi a second ago. These people that are investing in it, like Microsoft and some Google people, Google founders, whatever. when you start talking about those people investing in it, I have to wonder if they just want a better thinking to put in the drive-through window, so you can get rid of people in the drive-through window, and you've got more personalized bot that can take your order for, burger and fries. I can't feel like that their real goal is
Is
to
to help
help
the
man
epidemic.
is to help mankind. I feel that their real goal is to make money.
Correct.
And maybe I mentioned earlier, I mean, the goal of most of these companies is to make their products more personal, so you don't want to ever change to another one. So that's probably more what their goal is. But we like to think people are doing things for the
For the good.
human reason, the good reasons
So The
occasionally.
Verge, this came out. Intel CEO is basically saying that, hey, they are building artificial intelligence into every single platform from now on.
Yes. And so again, back to, if you want to connect it back to personal. So if you've got chat bots, or bots that are personalized, and oh, by the way, you've got AI built into everything, you got to wonder, am I going to have a relationship with my coffee pot? I mean, at some point, it seems like I don't
I'm
need to.
sorry, but I already have a
Oh,
relationship with
sorry.
my coffee pot.
That was a really bad choice of words, probably, because some people already feel very personal and very, very
Absolutely.
protective of their coffee pots.
Absolutely.
But I don't know how much you need to build into your dishwasher and your washing machine. I
Okay,
maybe
the movie I Robot, I think, was one that was really
iRobot.
popular, but there was another one that
iRobot was actually good. It
well,
had
there
Will
was
Smith in
another
it.
one that also had like the refrigerator that had advertisements on it. Very futuristic. I really want to say it had Arnold Schwarzenegger in it.
No idea. Maybe, but
Anyway,
they,
just look up AI in movies or
you know,
robots in
I
movies
read
and
a sci-fi
pull those
story
things up.
once. I read a
Oh,
sci-fi
you
story.
always read
I read a
sci-fi
sci-fi story once,
stories.
and in this particular story, AI was built into everything, except you had to pay money to get it to shut up, basically.
The movie had that. He
And
refused to listen to the
so
advertisements
the
that were on the
advert, you had to pay
refrigerator.
extras. If you didn't pay extra, then you had to listen to an advertisement before you could wash your load of clothes, and
Correct.
it was pretty awful.
Okay, so this one is a cool headline. AIbusiness.com. We've talked in the past about uh, manipulation of images and how
Hmm.
AI can manipulate for deep fakes and
Yes,
videos
it's in the
and
news all the
photo
time.
stuff. It's in the news all the time.
It
So
is.
MIT, which is of course very very smart people,
We hope.
they have developed a mask that protects images from manipulation by an AI.
Yeah, they call it photo guard, and they're talking about, basically they want you to know that an image has been manipulated. And so whatever this does, again, there's code on GitHub that people can play with. Probably above my ability to play with it too much, or my time, but it does sound interesting, because basically you can. It's like putting a watermark
That's what I
on
was
an
just going to
image,
say.
except a watermark is typically something that's embedded in an image that it's there. This is saying, I'm going to change the structure. If I understand it, I'm going to change the structure of the image in a way that if you do anything to change it, it will distort the image,
Right. So it's like at a pixel level.
I
They're going
guess.
down. What's it sounds like to me is that it's almost like they're putting an overlay that's guarding the pixels, to where if I do any manipulation of any of the pixels in that image, it's going to let you know that those pixels have been changed. That's what logically I
That's what it
would think
sounds
it would
like.
mean.
Well, the thing is that I hope they can do it, because it is a concern and it's a legitimate concern of people taking images and not just training eyes with it, but people with ill intent
Hmm.
taking your images and think about what they can do with it. They can make slight changes to it to make you. I mean, that was a technique used by the Nazis in World War II. There's a friend of ours that collects artwork and stuff from World War II and Nazi Germany, and Jewish artwork. And there's a lot of it I've seen where they took those images and they distorted aspects of the image to make the people look more threatening. They gave them darker eyes. It's like they do in the cartoons. That the evil guy always has the longer nose, and they wear the cape and they got shadows in their eyes. So people can take an image of you and they can alter it slightly to make you look less nice, or
Hmm.
and those the deep fakes are bad. When you're talking about porno and deep fakes and all that stuff, that's horrible. but maybe it'd be more damaging for people to be able to make those subtle changes that
Yes.
because it can change how you feel about someone just by you look at an image of someone and you kind of get a feeling, do they look mean, do they look nice?
Well,
That stuff worries me
let's think
quite a
about a
bit.
movie star. You know, you have a movie star who is known to be a very nice person, and you take a picture of them when they have a smile on their face, and instead you put a frown on their face. And then you
Yeah.
plaster it all over all the tabloids and say, "Is she really nice?" No, she's not. And then the next thing you know, it's ruined her reputation of being
Yeah.
America's sweetheart. So definitely those minor changes make a big
Of course,
difference.
you can do, as you know, being a photographer, you can also do that with just the angle
Yes, you
and the
can.
context. I saw one recently. I don't know what it actually was, but it was Tom Hanks and his wife. I think they were at an award ceremony or something, but it looked like he was like yelling at the guy that was parking the cars or something. And I read something about it later. I really got the feeling that he just couldn't hear the guy and that he was just leaning in close and going,
Like,
"What? Haven't you ever done
huh?
that where it's really
He's getting
loud
a
and
little older. He
it's a little
can't
loud?"
hear.
Yeah. And you're going, "I don't hear it." And that wasn't an AI thing. That was just someone taking a picture and then
It's a
putting a caption under it that
it's
made it sound
called
negative.
it's called perspective, and it's
Yes.
something I taught to my kiddos in junior high. It's all
So
about perspective.
I'm excited about this because, and this sounds like good news to me because I'm really hoping that they can protect them. So I know we kind of got off our original topic, which was the personalization, but at the same time, I think the personalization stuff, I've got mixed emotions about it, but I do think it could do some good in the world if we allow it to.
Yes, absolutely. Now, the very last thing we're going to say is that we actually got
We
interviewed
did.
by an Austin news station about artificial intelligence and the stuff that we're doing at our day job.
Mhm.
Um, Speaking of AI, it's a chat bot, and it's a chat bot that we are releasing that is going to have ingested the internal documentation of the place that we work, which is a school system.
Mhm.
It's going to have handbooks, the code of conduct. It already has like the disciplinary laws from the state of Texas. It's going to have schedules and phone lists and just all those things, so that if I am a new teacher, or even if I'm an older teacher, and as in I've been at the district a little while, I can just ask my chat bot that's on my phone, what is the extension of the Human Resources Department? I don't have to go dig through my desk or find something on my bulletin board to try to figure out that extension that I only dial twice a year. So
Yeah.
it's going to be very, very helpful.
There's a lot of things out there right now, even Claude, the AI, that'll digest information, and you could use that. The reason we did this ourselves was, first of all, we wanted it to be for our internal use only, so you have to log in to get to it. But we also wanted it to be very personalized. We call it hyper personalized for our particular use and our ability to maintain the documentation. Things change. We wanted it to be really easy for us to extract the old document, like the old handbook, and put the new one in, but we use a lot of Google in our district, and so we decided to go ahead and make the source files a Google folder. So again, we really tuned it around what we're comfortable with in the IT department, what we felt that like the teachers would be comfortable with, and again, we started it as an onboarding tool,
Yes.
and we're going to use it for more than that. Like you said, we want to make it multimodal where you can pull up maps and things like that. We haven't done that yet, but we want people to be able to find the copy room or some of our hallways and stuff. They start looking all. When I first got there, it was hard to find some of
Well,
the rooms,
we've
and
added on.
we've
We've
added
added
on
on over the
things, and the
years
maps are
and
out of date a little bit.
construction.
So we're kind
So
of
we
hoping.
did not intend to have the news station come interview us. Our future son-in-law actually thought it was a really, really cool thing that we had done, and he's the one that said, "Hey, you guys need to go talk to these people because this is really cool." We've named it
We
Agnes,
have, and
and
you
even though
generated an
it's
image for it.
generated an image in Midjourney for it, and even
Hmm.
though it might not be a girlfriend, it is going to be very, very helpful
Right.
in telling you some important things that you might like to know, like when's payday.
Yes, and someday I might give Agnes a voice too, where maybe even turn her into a full virtual assistant for teachers to use. But for now, it's very simple. It serves our purpose, and hopefully, we can get lots of information programmed into it.
Yes. So that is all we have for today. Um, you know, I think it's going to be a whole new world that we live in. And
Yes,
it's hopefully going to be very bright, and AI is going to be very, very helpful in the future.
we hope so.
Hopefully, you will listen again next week on AI Now. And that brings us to the end of AI in Action, Exploring Tomorrow's Tech Today. We're Maurie and Jim, your guides on this exciting journey through the world of artificial intelligence. We hope today's conversation has left you with fresh insights and a deeper understanding of how AI is shaping our future. If you enjoyed our discussion and want to stay up to date with the latest in AI, make sure to subscribe and share the podcast with your friends and colleagues. Remember, the future is not something that just happens to us. It's something we can actively shape and influence with knowledge and action. So let's continue exploring, innovating, and taking action. Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to sharing more exciting AI developments with you next time on AI in Action, Exploring Tomorrow's Tech Today.